Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, and MeWe. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
Gonna be a long one tonight, boys.
Jimmy?
Who's out there?
All right, action! There's dinos dead ahead! Let's teach them how to die!
We should have a party. Keep it small and your parents won't find out, I promise.
Just one of those stupid pranks! No reason to break up the party.
The aliens were using human skin to fuel their spaceship.
I don't want my body to be alien fuel.
This means war.
Give us a fucking break already! Oh, fuck.
You want to dance?
Fuck space.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 496, releasing January 20 across the US in theaters, on demand, and digital is Kids vs. Aliens, a sci-fi horror in which a group of foul-mouthed, rough and tumble kids stand up against alien invaders who most definitely do not come in peace. Combining Amblin-style adventure with grindhouse exploitation theatrics, Kids vs. Aliens will speak to the inner 80s kid in all of us. And joining me now is the director of Kids vs. Aliens and a fellow 80s man-child, Mr. Jason Eisener. Jason, thank you so very much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Did you say 496 episodes?
This is 496, sir. Yes, indeed.
Holy smokes. A few more and it's 500. That's crazy.
I know. It's coming up so fast. You know, it's like a passion project of mine, kind of similar to how Kids vs. Aliens has been a passion project for you. I mean, this has been 10 years in the making. It all kind of started back in 2013, didn't it, with VHS2, the horror anthology. Slumber Party Alien Abduction is the contribution you made there.
Yeah.
The idea come about that short that you made for that movie, you could kind of like flesh it out and kind of like make it a world building kind of film with Kids versus Aliens. Is that something you always had in mind with that piece of short that you made for that film?
I right after we made the short, there were talks for like a minute about expanding it into a feature, but it never really flourished into anything. But I had I kind of took inspiration from it, and I had other pitches for like doing like a kids like horror genre. Like I wanted to do like a TV series at the time, but when I was pitching it in Hollywood, no one wanted to do like something that was like, you know, a kid centric like genre thing. So I tried pitching it over the years and just to no avail. And so it wasn't just, it was like a year and a half ago, I was speaking with Brad Miska, who's one of the producers of the VHS movies. And we got to talking, and like he expressed that he always loved the idea of making that short into a feature, and he pitched it to Mark Ward at RLJE, who was like a huge fan of the short, and he always wanted to see like an R-rated kids movie too. So he pretty much just like greenlit it on the spot. Like I had like one phone call with him, and told him kind of what I wanted to do with it, and he just believed in me and greenlit it and sent us off.
What's really cool about Kids versus Aliens is the first time we see the kids in your movie, they're making their own film. They're dressed up. They're creating their own world. That's essentially you when you were 8 years old, right? You're there in Nova Scotia, your hometown, where this film was made. Mm-hmm. You're out there with your mates. You're remaking Beetlejuice. You're remaking Ghostbusters. That's pretty much you out there, right? So this is kind of like a tribute in a sort of way to not only your childhood, but I think in a lot of ways, the tributes to a lot of childhoods, including mine. I used to always do stuff like that when I was a kid as well, and it's really cool to see that on a film.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, like I wanted, like there's definitely a heightened sensibility to it, and like, how these kids, they have like this amazing like clubhouse, with a wrestling ring in it. It's almost too good to be true, but I took like note from I love The Sandlot, and I love Monster Squad, and the forts, like in the tree houses that they made in those, and Ernest Scared Stupid, those were made by, very talented production designers. But as a kid, I wanted to like replicate them, but they were so beyond my like capabilities and, just couldn't get the lumber to like do something like that. But I always daydreamed about it, and it always kind of like filled my imagination. So I thought, that's what we should do with this. Like, even though it may be over the top, the kids have their own barn with a, like a wrestling ring and all this stuff. I just thought if kids saw it, or the kid like me saw it, I would be like inspired and think, I wish I could hang out there.
Speaking of Nova Scotia, something really interesting that I came across is that your opening scenes of your film has to deal with men on a fishing boat, and they come across this like a UFO, supposedly kind of based on these kind of reports back from like the 1960s called the Shag Harbor UFO incident, where they're in Nova Scotia, and supposedly an alien craft went into the harbor there. When was the first time you remember hearing about that when you were a kid? And was it always kind of like your intention to try to put that on film in some type of way? Because it's really interesting how like you took something that was kind of like legendary from your hometown and kind of brought it to the screen here.
Oh, thanks for noticing that. Yeah, like when I was a kid, I think it was 1993, so I would have been like 10 or 11. The trailers for Fire in the Sky were airing on television, and it was showing these horrific images of a man being abducted by aliens. And then under the title, it said based on a true story. And that really like messed me up like as a kid, because anything, the television telling me that this is like a real thing, something that like really like that this actually happened to somebody, I was terrified that was going to happen to me. And I remember we were visiting a family member who was in the Canadian Navy, and the trailer came on, and like I was talking about it because I was scared about it, but I wanted to talk about it and hear like what like my dad and like other people like thought of it. And this family member was telling me of all the rumors that they heard in the Navy as to like what went down. And that was like kind of crazy too, because being a kid, like I'm hearing that from somebody like I trust, who's like being real with me. And so it's like there's like this alien story that's like right in like my backyard, pretty much, as you could say. Well, it's like it's a few hour drive from my house as to where it happened, but just it was just part of the culture. And like hearing that story, and how like a bunch of fishermen saw like this glowing light crash into Shag Harbor in 1967, and they thought it was like a plane that went down, and they raced their boats over there to look for survivors. But when they got there was just this glowing light coming from below. And so, as to what happened the days after that are like, that's where all like the rumors like, come in. But I've always wanted to like incorporate that, because it fueled my nightmares as a kid, and the idea of aliens coming out of the water was something I never like really saw like done before. But yeah.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon. The world's leading online store, Amazon is your first stop to buy a wide range of products at competitive prices with fast delivery times. Amazon is also a world-class entertainment hub that includes Prime Video, Audible, Twitch, Amazon Music, and more. Sign up with Amazon today and experience the best in online shopping and entertainment. Please support Matt's Movie Reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. I wanted to talk about the kids from the title. So it's really interesting. I remember I was watching a documentary last year about the making of It, the Tim Curry 1990 version. And I'll talk about how when the kids were on the set, when they fooled around the production, we were very quick to say, hey, we've got to take it seriously. We've got to be professional here. You got to act like, be a professional actor kind of thing, which is fair enough. I remember reading or listening to a podcast you did where you were like, I'm going to encourage these kids to act up. I want them. I want that energy. I want that mischievous kind of nature that they can bring to the fore. Was that something that you felt that really helped with the energy of the room? Because the thing about this movie that hits you right from the fore is there's an energy, there's electricity to it. And I think that energy comes from the youth that's on the screen. Is that something you really wanted to tap into and make sure it showed on the screen?
Oh yeah, definitely. Thanks for noticing that too, because it's like tough to like achieve, especially with kids who've never like acted before too. So it's like I try to create like a safe space on set so these kids like can like feel like that they're any idea that they bring to the table will be like welcome, that they don't have to be like self-conscious about themselves or like because I really wanted them to like I wanted them to bring themselves to it and also just not be scared and like have fun. And like I think if they're having fun, that's going to come across. And like what we had a joke at the crew had like a joke because the AD would constantly be yelling out like still rolling, we're still rolling, because I would keep it rolling until I got the moment I was looking for, because once I called cut, like I could just see like all the kids, they're like they're just like their energy would go down and they go grab snacks, and it just to get everything back to the focus of the moment we're trying to get it would take a while again to like get it there, whereas we keep it rolling, we would do a take, and then we do it again, just and get it like just get the kids like more excited and just keep them focused like in that moment. So it's like a mix of like keeping it like there would be times I would more so have to tell the crew like you guys take it serious, so that like if the kids are doing an emotional thing where there's some emotional moments in the movie with the kids, like I wanted to like if like the crew is like laughing and joking around, then the kids wanted to partake in that, so there'd be times we would have to tell people, all right, just I know you're having fun, but just like chill out for a second, like we're trying to cry here.
I want to talk about the color in the film. Color plays a really big part in it. You've got these really kind of prime color combinations. I mean, the glow of the UFO, and then from that, it comes from different things, purples and blues and greens, very kind of neon fluoro. And I read that action figures, especially like wrestling action figures, played like a big part in kind of like the colors that you wanted to have. What was it about wrestling action figures, especially from your youth, that really kind of inspired you in the way you wanted to tell the visual story of this movie?
Yeah, I guess like action figures and action figure play sets and figure lines were like probably even more of an inspiration on this movie than like films were. And like I said, like I wanted to create like a universe that could be just as big as something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Ghostbusters or He-Man or any of the ones that I loved growing up, and kind of create like a sandbox, that like I feel that like kids or other people could like play in it, and there could be a big enough universe there to tell more stories in it. But with action figures, and especially it was kind of the wrestling action figures that kind of put a light bulb into my brain, like especially when I first did Hobo with a Shotgun and I was making my first feature film. I wanted to figure out like what makes my aesthetic like unique and or just what like how like the things I'm going to be telling my crew in like in an artistic sort of way, like why do I like certain things the way I like them, I guess you could say. And so I realized like wrestling action figures had a big part on like why I do like colors and color combinations, because when they were making, especially in the 80s, when they were making the gimmicks and the characters for the wrestlers, they were using like color combinations that would like really attract like kids like attention. And so it had such an effect to this day. When I see a certain red and yellow go together, I instantly think like Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan, yeah.
And that they were making the action figures and the merchandise and making characters that just would stand out, that kids would want to like buy the action figures and wear the clothing and all that stuff. And so I knew that had such an effect on me and just how I grew up liking things and what I would be attracted to. So I went to my costume designer, Sarah Dunsworth, on Hobo, and was like, let's do this. Let's take this thinking that worked on me and let's do that with all of our characters like in our movies, and every character that we make should feel like it could be like a great action figure. So yeah.
It really does feel like you're building a universe here. And from a universe comes additional chapters in the story. And the end of Kids First Alien, not to give away too much, but it does have potential for a follow-on. Of course, there's a lot of things in consideration when talking sequels and anything like that. But ideas-wise, do you have ideas already thought of or written down as to what potential follow-ups there could be for this story?
Yeah, definitely. My co-writer John Davies and I, we've already written a treatment as to what the sequel could be, and we were dreaming about it like while we were writing the first one and shooting it, and the kids while we were making it were pitching us a bunch of amazing ideas as well too. So that's the dream. If people like this enough and they talk about it enough, hopefully someone will allow us to get the band all back together and go make the sequel to it, because it's like, the first one just like it does a lot of the work to like get us to a place where I feel the second one is like really unhinged and goes to some pretty crazy places, and there's outcomes of characters and this movie that you'd be surprised to see what happens with them in the sequel. So yeah, hopefully that happens.
Well, before that happens, I encourage everyone to either go to the theaters or watch Kids First Aliens on demand or on digital Gen 20. I do recommend people check it out at the theater though, because the soundtrack, the visuals, everything I think really speaks to a theater experience. I really recommend everyone check this movie out. It's that mix of sci-fi and horror, that kind of mix up this 80s nostalgia in there as well. And then you have kind of like a really cool sci-fi horror adventure story in the middle of it. And I got to say, Jason, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. Congratulations with the movie. Best of luck with the film's release, and hopefully we'll talk again in the future. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Matthew. I appreciate it.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.